I'm Robin Birkin, an ex-corporate marketer turned online business owner. I took everything I knew and created a six-figure life coaching business in the margins between nap times and a 9 to 5, and I'm here to share with you how you can do the same. Tune in as I share the raw and unfiltered truths, big lessons, and practical tips to help you build and grow a sustainable bread-winning business online that is both peaceful and profitable. Here, we dive deep into all things online courses, funnels, audience growth, and so much more. If that sounds like the things you want to learn, then welcome to Signature Online Course Secrets. Let's go.
Hi, and welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to share this episode with you for so many reasons. Number one is because it's highly tactical. Speaking to tactical moves, live launching, all of those things is exactly what I love doing the best. And this is also a bit of an inside look into some of the things that we might do/work through in the Peace and Profit Mastermind. So we very much will help our clients in the mastermind, and I say we, it's pretty much me. I will help people in the mastermind with live launching. Typically, one of the things that we will identify as a core objective when people want to increase the revenue of their one-to-many offers, one of the things we'll identify as a core thing we need to work on is increasing webinar registrations. We just need more people, more volume in the launch. Let's say you think to a live launch. You've live launched before and you know that your webinar converts in a live launch at 5%. You're like, this is a freaking great webinar, and you want 50 people in your webinar. One of the things that you will do when you become a little bit more advanced at launching is day by day, you're going to track those registrations. And when you are in launch, and this is one of the things that we help. So I'm not going to sit here on a hot seat call with you and be like, here's some things you can do, to increase people into your webinar. But one of the things we often do is day by day, you're going to go through, track that data, and you are going to get an indication at many points in your launch as to whether things are going to plan. And this is one of the biggest benefits of being in a high touch container like a mastermind is you get to quickly make decisions that could radically impact the success of a launch. So if you are waiting till a launch is finished in order to then go say, okay, now our review, how did we go? Then you are possibly doing yourself a disservice because you may be able to turn around a launch because you looked at the data, because you had the goals set. You might look inside a live launch, get to day 4 and say to me, Robin, I really thought we would have 50 sales by now. We're sitting at 10. What do we do? And that's the benefit of being in something like a mastermind, is that you can go through and inside a launch have the play-by-play. Now, you might say to yourself, let's say you say, I want 1,000 people in my webinar, and day by day you're tracking. And by day 4 of your webinar promotion period, you are sitting at only 200 registrations for your webinar. And you had set to yourself that by now you actually should have had 350. So you're kind of tracking at nearly half of the people that you wanted on your webinar. That is an indication, if you wait and wait and wait, and let's say you then close the webinar registration and you've only got 500 people and you had anticipated or reverse engineered that you needed 1,000 in order to meet your sales and revenue targets. Newsflash, we can definitely try and do a few things inside of the live launch, but by and large, you are going to want to readjust your expectations to make 50% of the sales that you had anticipated during that time. Again, there's things we can do in the live launch, there's things we can do post-launch and still in the launch to try and recoup some of that revenue. But this is the level of if you want to be a sophisticated CEO in your business, this is where you need to be, is looking at that data play by play and iterating your launch in that moment. And, again, you might be like, well, I'm not willing to do that. That's totally fine, because sometimes there are things in business that I'm like, well, I'm not willing to do that. But I readjust my expectations based on that. So obviously, if you want to increase webinar registrations, there's two ways to do it. Convert more people, so whatever traffic is there, convert higher, or just simply drive more traffic to the page. Like, it's one of two things. You either have more people going to the webinar registration page, or you squeeze more juice out of the people who are visiting. So what are some things that I would suggest to you? I could literally spit out 50 different things that you could do. What are the top probably 7 things that you might consider if you are in the webinar promo period or challenge promo period, you are not where you want to be in terms of registrations? So the number one thing that I would do is test a different headline. So if you are already running Facebook ads, you could very quickly pop out a test to test different headlines, or you can A/B test or ABC test your webinar registration page. You are going to specifically look, and probably the number one change, this is something that could take you from converting 20% of visitors on your webinar registration page to converting 60%. Like, it's that big a difference that a headline, so that's like the title of your webinar and the text underneath it, the tagline, can make a massive difference. Does that mean you have to change your presentation? No, it doesn't, because it's still going to be based roughly on the same topic, but you're going to word it in a different way. So you want to change up that headline and tagline. So I would be looking at, is this a tangible like transformation / thing that I'm giving, or am I being super vague and like everyone else? Unlock your best life. What? No. Can I speak specifically to some numbers, like how to double your webinar registrations and 3x your launch? Like, that's hyper specific, right? So you want to be like tangible and really specific in the headline tagline that you have for your webinar or challenge. Then you might be like, does this sound same as everyone else, or can I lean into like storytelling? So this is where you might lean into how I doubled my webinar registrations and took my conversion rate from 2% to 5% reliably. And then someone's going to be like, love that. I want to hear the case study for that. So then the third thing you might look at is different messaging angles. So you might alternate one as a pain point and one as a pleasure point. So let's say we were looking at Instagram, for example. A pain point around Instagram might be like how to stop being shadow banned or blocked by the algorithm and start reaching your ideal clients every single day. So pain point, how to stop being blocked by the algorithm. Pleasure point might be how to double your Instagram following, or how to, get 200,000 views, or how I got 200,000 views per month on my Instagram profile by making these 3 simple tweaks. The other thing you might do is look at, I call this like an moment. So let's say we're looking at like meal plans or something like that, and we're primarily targeting someone who is a mum of multiple kids who's tearing her hair out right now because she's a short order cook and everyone's got different meals. So you might say something along the lines of the weekly meal planning routine that radically changed our household. And then in brackets, you might say that my children love and only takes 15 minutes of preparation once a week. Those are like, people are like, I'm busy. What if my kids don't eat it? Like, what are the things they're going to drag? Like, that they'll be like, but, what are the things that are going to drag it down? And what are the things that would make people be like, oh, wow, like that makes it seem easy and awesome. So the other one would be like, without having to throw away, without having to make your kids another meal after dinner, or without slaving in the kitchen all Sunday. So looking at the headline, looking at the tagline, if you want to increase the registrations for your webinar and you want that page to work harder for you, that's the number one thing that I would change. And I'd be looking at how, like, what the page conversion rates are looking like now. I always aim for lead generation pages to be converting at about 50%. PDF lead magnet pages definitely want to be like around 50 to 60%. Webinar pages like maybe 40%. I'd be like, that's okay. Anything under that, I'm still working to try and improve it, primarily through like things like A/B testing. The next thing you might look at is a long page versus a short page. Are we giving people too much information that they're like, oh, nah, probably not for me? Or are we not giving people enough information? So that's where you would look at like what you've started with and then say, what can I tweak and make this easier? So a short page would be like, you're here to put your email address in, like just go do it. Then a long page might be like, they've got questions. You might add social proof. You might speak to like, these are the things you will learn or walk away with. You might add in a bonus for attending live. You might speak to the replays. So you would lengthen out the page just in the way that you would almost do a sales page. It wouldn't be as long as a sales page, but it wouldn't be like a simple PDF download page. And you might add in other times, again, or speak to the replay. But what you would do is lengthen out that sales page and start looking at, well, what other information do people need and what is potentially turning people away from entering their details on the page if my headline transformation is a juicy one. Number 3 is Facebook ads. Like, I see them as a non-negotiable thing when I am creating and running webinars. And I listened to something like a launch debrief from a multi-million-dollar person maybe a year ago. And one of the number one things that stood out about the launch debrief was that even though she had an email list of like 20 to 35,000 people, when she had her $1 million launch, still something like 60 to 70% of the people that signed up for the webinar came through a Facebook ad. I don't know why this happens, but even when you have people on your email list, you could send out 4 emails and they won't sign up to the webinar or they won't buy the mini product. But when you put it out on a Facebook ad, they will sign up from there, maybe because they're just used to converting from there, maybe because they're busy on their emails, maybe Facebook catches them when they're scrolling. But for whatever the reason, they end up converting. Like, you will scoop them up and they will already be warm and get them onto the webinar registration simply by running that on lead ads. I don't know many people who have scaled a business that runs in part-time hours that is based on one-to-many services without using Facebook ads. I'll be really honest. Number 4 is simple and curiosity-driven chat automation. So you could literally just double your output on Instagram, for example. You could release a new podcast episode or double your output on your podcast. What would it look like to double your output, but also specifically for things like Instagram? What I am seeing right now is just this really, like a lot of people are missing it, really simple posts that are essentially just a hook and then comment this word and I'll send you all the details. That level of simplicity, they're super quick to put out. You could double your output on social media and leverage chat automation. We have the 1,500 email subscribers in 3 weeks download, and I credit ManyChat with being one of the core things that catapulted that pre-launch period. It's that effective. And just a hot tip is when you are creating your ManyChat automations, like I just went and had a look at them the other day. It was just something that I messaged my VA about. You want to go for an assumptive close. So instead of just, here's the link, you want to go for, I'm so excited for you to download this, and have an assumptive close, by the way. Number 5 is more emails. A lot of people just aren't sending enough emails with enough data. You want to be sending a reasonable amount of emails. And one of the number one ways to increase your webinar registrations is simply by sending more emails. There is one email, if I was in this position, that I would specifically send to my list. And that is specifically one that speaks to, I didn't see your name on the list for this, and I think you would really love it. Or again, use an assumptive close, and I think you're going to love it. So go ahead, put your name down because these are the reasons why, and this is what you'll walk away with. But that level of simplicity and just sending more emails speaking to the benefits of it. Number 6 is you might shoulder tap adjacent niche friends or colleague or acquaintances in your network. Like, one of the reasons why when I pivoted my business, even though, I was essentially shutting down all of my revenue and starting again. But why I invested multiple 5 figures in joining a mastermind was because I wanted to build a network of other like-minded, niched business owners. All I knew was other people within the infertility niche. I didn't know any other really business to business owners. So I joined that mastermind with one of the primary objectives to be to build up my network, which is exactly what happened. And when you do that and you have friends in inverted commas in adjacent niches, so not someone who's doing the same and is essentially a competitor, which you can still be friends with competitors, and a rising tide lifts all ships, but they wouldn't directly promote your products when their products are the same. But you could shoulder tap other people who are adjacent and be like, hey, just wanted to let you know, this is what's happening. I'm promoting this webinar. I think it'd be really valuable for your audience. Would you mind promoting this to your Instagram stories? And of course, I would be happy to return the favor when you come to launch. When you have friends and a network, you get the opportunity to do that. And that can be super valuable, because what you also get when that happens, when someone else shouts you out, is that trust is kind of already there. So people are more likely to sign up because you've been recommended by someone. And then number 7, I've listed as get into a new room. And by that, I mean maybe you primarily post on Instagram, and that's where you primarily are. If you are an Instagram marketer though, you probably also have posted a couple of posts on Threads. Maybe you've ghosted the platform. You're like, no, Instagram is where I hang. Get back on Threads. Go into a different room. Go somewhere else where your Cloud9 clients are and just start. There is no better time than now. Go and start putting out posts. Reach people in a different way. Even if it's the same place where your Cloud9 clients are, this is where you'll increase the repetition of that messaging in those channels. So get into a different room to where you are. Maybe you're currently on Instagram. Get into TikTok, right? Go start in being in a different place. We had a challenge that we ran. When was it? Middle of last year, or maybe it was early last year. And my VA's Facebook page or profile got hacked. So the challenge was due to start on Monday, Tuesday. On the Friday, early in the morning, her Facebook page got hacked. And I woke up to a thing from an email or whatever from Facebook and all the notifications that said, we've suspended your page. And I was like, what? My Facebook ads were technically okay. And Facebook ads was one of the main things I had used to convert people in this launch. My Facebook ads were technically okay, but my Facebook page had been suspended. So therefore the ads weren't running for that reason. Then what had also happened was the actual group that everyone was supposed to be part of, that group got suspended. So it was just a suspension for 30 days. I think while Facebook was like, oh, let's just, scope this out. And then everything associated with Facebook that she'd had access to as an admin had been suspended. So I was like, okay, fine. My strategy to pivot to get in a new room was I'm going to post in other Facebook groups. So you wouldn't post in other Facebook groups here's the link to my thing, get in, and break all of the rules. But there are ways that you can tell storytelling and things like that in other groups. That was my strategy. It turns out, though, that I wasn't able to post in any Facebook groups, including my own. So therefore, it was this question of we have goals to meet. I am still Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4 days out from launch. Let's say I had a 7 to 10 day runway. That's nearly half of the runway. So instead of just being oh, well, that's where we pivoted. So we pivoted to focus on a Facebook group. Then I've pivoted to send more emails. That's, I guess, what you need to do. But you need to, where you can, get in a new room and shift and change your output in order to get a different result. So ideally, when you are launching, you're not waiting until after it all finishes and then wraps up and you're either happy or disappointed with the result before making changes. There is so much that you can do inside of a launch and a pre-launch to impact and change the results that you are getting. And that's literally the power of having other people in your pocket. But that's also why when you are in a launch, you want to preserve your physical energy to be able to pivot. So you ideally don't want to be writing emails, writing social media posts in the live launch. You ideally want them to be scheduled out, batched out, rinsed and repeated rather than writing them from scratch, so that you have time every day, 1 to 2 hours, to pivot and check your data. And you also want to be able to reserve energy so that once you close the doors to your launch, you have the space and capacity to be able to welcome people into that container. That is all from me this week. I hope you have the best day and I will speak to you soon. Bye for now.
Another episode on the books. If you'd like to continue the conversation and get more super saveable tips, come and find me on Instagram at Robin Birkin. Otherwise, make sure you're subscribed and I can't wait to see you next week.